Kate Jackson is the Vice President and Director of Competition for the World Equestrian Games. Now, having covered the Olympics myself, covering the equestrian events at the last Olympics, I know the difference between horse racing and the Olympic event or the World Equestrian Games or the Rolex three-day event that people might be familiar with here. I think the point is, Kate, you know, there are some people out there that wonder about the excitement that aren't that familiar that I believe these games will bring more attention to. There is still that thrill and the excitement with 8 medal competitions taking place.
Absolutely. And the variety of the different sports, I think, opens us up to presenting an exciting spectacle to everyone's taste, everyone who loves horses. We have not only the 3 Olympic sports, but we have 5 additional sports, from reining, which is, of course, a Western sport, and very exciting, especially to the people who love Western. We have endurance, which is a 100-mile race across country. And we have the driving, and if you drive carriages with 4 horses in front of you, if you can imagine, that's pretty challenging, and it's a very exciting event. And we have, of course, for the first time in the World Equestrian Games, we have para-equestrian, where our athletes who have physical disabilities are able to compete in dressage. And it's incredibly exciting and impressive to watch them.
This event will bring, I would guess, all the top competitors, or the majority of the top competitors that we recently saw that competed in the Beijing Olympic Games.
Yes, and more, of course, because
Right.
we have more disciplines. Absolutely, it is the goal. It is, as somebody said earlier, the Olympics of equestrian sport, because we have all of our international disciplines, not just the 3 Olympic disciplines.
Yeah, I would guess that a person that's not grown up around horses, or hasn't watched many horse racing events or equine events of any kind, some of the things you were talking about, if you probably saw the movie Hidalgo, or if you saw a John Wayne movie and have an appreciation of horses, seriously, this would be something to show up for.
Sure,
and then maybe get a better appreciation of what the athletes go through.
Well, yes, and the variety of skills of the horses and riders. I mean, vaulting, which I didn't mention before. These young people who are vaulting on and off and truly doing gymnastics maneuvers on a cantering horse. Very impressive when you watch it. It's not very well known in this country, but I think everybody who came to our test events really appreciated how fascinating that was to watch.
For the general crowd that's coming, and I'm guessing, from talking with Jamie a minute ago, we're going to hear from others. I mean, one of the goals is obviously to bring more people in that are just interested in it. Maybe they don't appreciate all the nuances. Is it one of these things that you'll be able to watch, for example, the vaulting, and kind of be able to put it together as you watch it, coming from the untrained eye, not from a person who's been a technical director for the Olympics?
Yes, I think so. Our announcers or commentators who are in the stadium are very good at explaining the different sports. We also plan to have some educational parts of our competitions. There'll be, for instance, in dressage, we'll have an early ride, a test ride, where the rider is mic'd and can actually explain what he's doing and how difficult it is to achieve it. We want to do that in all our sports so that we can help the maybe less familiar spectators understand what they're watching.
Now, for the ones that have followed the sport, the devotees of this sport, it's going to be just a fest for them over 16 days and watching 8 medal competitions taking place. I don't know, does it get any better?
I don't think so.
What are some of the things that you're interested in seeing aside from dressage, cross-country, stadium jumping?
That I'm interested in seeing?
That if you were coming just to watch the games yourself, you're not working the games, let's pretend, and you're just showing up.
Well, I think that somebody who's coming for the first time and maybe comes general admission and is watching on the big boards sees parts of the different competitions, they'll say, oh, that looks interesting. I think I want to get a ticket and watch that. And hopefully there'll be tickets available for them to do that. And it depends on your taste, of course, and what your interests are.
When they see people driving and they see how the narrow route that they're taking,
Obstacles, yeah.
that it's fascinating to get around those obstacles
It
in a
certainly
carriage.
is. In a carriage with 4 horses in front, going through water, up and down hills, between narrow posts, and it really is.
This brings up the question now from Lisa Michelle, who got on Facebook, I believe, and sent this in. How many riders will be there, and how many countries are represented?
Well, we get our entries in principle the 1st of May, and that's when we'll actually know what countries are intending to participate. We expect about 60 different countries, 700 to 800 athletes, drivers, vaulters, riders, but we won't know for sure until May 1st. Every country develops their own selection criteria. In this country, in fact, the Rolex Kentucky 3-day event will be one of the selection trials for the U.S. team for the games in the fall. And I believe the Canadians are also making it their selection.
Good showing for the U.S. team in the last Olympics. Great showing for the Canadian team in the last Olympics. I would guess, certainly with the world coming in, but right here in North America with Canada and U.S. coming off some of their better Olympic performances, that would be enticing for the general public as well as the fans of the sport.
It's always good to root for your home team.
Yeah, well, we're seeing it right now. We just saw it in the recent Winter Olympics where Canada said it's their podium, and
Right.
people are going up there. I would imagine. Is there a feeling, in your experience throughout the world and working with FEI, is there a feeling of the Europeans wanting to come over here and make their statement as well?
For sure.
And the Americans wanting to hold turf, I guess?
Certainly, and it's going to be very exciting because of the world champions, the current world champions who will be coming to compete and try to hold on to their crowns, and the people are going to try to knock them off their thrones. So it's going to be very exciting.
How will the quarantine process work here for the World Equestrian Games?
Well, all the horses that come in from overseas must go through quarantine of some kind. The horses coming up from South America go through Miami. They have a 7-day quarantine, and after they have come through that 7-day quarantine, we will fly them directly to Lexington, and they will come into the horse park. Those horses will arrive on September 10th. We want to give them enough time to relax and maybe, recover from being in a stall for 7 days, which the quarantine is. The rest of the horses from Europe will be coming through the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Airport, where we are building a temporary facility there in cooperation with the USDA. And we will be running that, and that's going to be probably about 600 horses will come through that facility. That'll open on the 16th of September. And we'll just bring in all the horses in flights of 60. They'll stay for 42 hours. Blood will be drawn and tested in Ames, Iowa. And then everything passes, everything's fine. They'll come down to the horse park and the next shipment will come in.
South America, Australia, are there countries out there that maybe our people don't know a lot about that could factor in these World Equestrian Games in terms of the actual competition?
Yes, and of course horses will be coming from Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, and they'll come through Los Angeles, actually. So that's we'll fly them from California to the horse park. One of the top drivers right now is from Australia. We even have 2 athletes coming from China.
Is that rare to have the Chinese
It
participants?
is. It is new.
I know in the Olympics, obviously being the home country, in the
Yeah.
Olympics they had their dressage teams and they had their eventing team, and are very young, from as best I remember.
Yes, and of course when you're the host country, you sort of get a few wild
Right.
cards. But these young athletes will have earned the right to be here by virtue of the quality of their competition.
So there is a process. You can't just show up and be in the games.
No, you can't.
It's like the Olympics. Again, it's the Equestrian Olympics. Essentially, you have to qualify, and the criteria has to be met.
Exactly.
Kate, I know you've got a lot of work to do. Does anything get particularly dicey as it gets closer? I mean, the competitors, obviously they're all hoping their horses are healthy. That's the main thing, as well as the human competitors. Are there 2 or 3 things that you're closely looking at right now, though, to get this competition?
Well, I am very much a perfectionist, and my goal for every one of these athletes is they should have the best conditions under which to compete in every one of our different venues. So our focus is really on the detail now. The general planning is behind us, and now it's every detail, and we walk the venues and we say, now, you're going to come in here, how's that going to work? Where, I mean, every bit of it has to be properly planned so that they have the best chance they can have.
And you mentioned walk, so I'll submit one more viewer question from Sarah Armstrong. Will we be able to walk around cross country before and after the riders go?
Yes. Easy question.
See, we like those. Yes or no. So it'll be similar to most of the cross country,
Exactly.
if people are familiar with that, which is one of my favorites. I don't know if there's anything more exciting, and we know there's obviously the danger and risk involved, and to watch the athletes compete in that's fascinating to me.
It's very exciting, as is the driving cross country.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh.
I mean, a favorite competition?
Well, I started out organizing eventing, so I guess that would be my favorite. But I've also organized some driving events, and I'm very, and now, you know, I'm organizing 8 events, and I find each one of them has their own unique appeal and fascination.
Kate, we'll look forward to talking to you as we get closer to the games. Thank you very much.
Okay.